Where are you from? You. Did you say you don't know who I am? The young lady in the red shirt. Bowling Green. You've never heard of the Carrollton bus crash? Well, you're going to hear about it now. You, sir, where are you from? And you don't know about the Carrollton bus crash? Heard about it. And I'm not picking on y'all, but I speak all over the place. And I like to ask people where they're from, simply because this is the worst drunk driving crash in U.S. history, and I am one of the survivors. What I'm going to tell you today is going to hopefully stick with you and help change your life, because this is life-changing. This crash killed 27 of my friends, and 40 of us survived. So when I speak about this, I'm not just your average public speaker. I never even intended on becoming a public speaker, to be truthful. You know what I do for a living? Does anybody guess what I also do for a living? Do you know, or are you going to guess? You think you know what? Yes, I am also a Hardin County school bus driver. Who drives a school bus after almost dying on a bus? Well, that's what I do. I've been driving for 8 years. I drive out of North Hardin, Vine Grove Elementary, and you guys know what the day treatment kids are? Y'all got some here. So I drive day treatment for North Hardin too. So part of my story in sharing this also is to give a message of, I don't care what you've gone through in life, you can overcome it. Because getting on a bus, driving every day, it's kind of hard sometimes. Here in about 20 minutes, you're gonna see a white bus that's outside these doors. About 3 years ago, I bought a bus identical to what we were on, and I put pictures of the kids that died in the crash on the seats. That bus is pretty powerful. And the reason I bought that bus, and I bring it to schools, and I go to rehab centers, and I do impact panels, because I let people get on that bus. I'm gonna be very truthful. Y'all are seniors. Y'all get ready to go out in the world. Fun time's over. Here's what my passion is. And don't mistake me that I'm trying to be hardcore, but you gotta understand, standing in these shoes, talking to young people, I was 15 years old when this crash happened. I'm one of the last kids to get off that bus alive. I should have died that night. My very best friend, the very first friend I made, Anthony Marks, he died that night. He's the one that invited me on the trip. I lost my best friend at 15 years old. Also, part of my story, but for sake of time, I'm not going to go into all of it. I grew up here in Hardin County, in Radcliffe. My father's a drug addict, alcoholic, did crack, and did cocaine. So I grew up like that. And then all of a sudden, at the age of 15, when I'm getting ready to start kind of getting out of my shell and go hang out with my friends, and because I grew up very shy, as much as I talk now, I used to never talk to people forever because I just was shy because of my home environment. At the age of 15, when I started getting out, I was in this crash. Can you imagine how that affected my mindset as a child? Some of you in here right now have difficult home lives that you act out because you're trying to escape your home life. You don't know how to deal with stuff. See, I think just like you guys. For this reason, number one, I'm trapped at 15 because I had to grow up real. I lost my childhood because of the way my father was and then being in this crash. I got 3 kids. My oldest is 24. I got a 20-year-old and I got an 11-year-old. Plus, I'm a bus driver, and I used to be a youth leader. So I know what's in your head. So don't think that, oh, Mr. Higgins has got a story. He's just up here speaking. Yes, ma'am. How did I cope with it? Oh, that's kind of a rough question. Growing up, like I said, I became shy. My dad was, you done got me off track, but I'm going to tell this story because you want to know. It's very important. My father was what I call a smart drunk. We lived in a mobile home park, Madison Mobile Home Park, for years. My dad would come in drunk, play music, and then after about an hour, he'd become violent. And I would see him hit my mom. I've seen my father choke my mom out to the point to where I thought he was going to kill her. I was the one, out of my 2 sisters, I'd go in my room and sit in the corner. So for many years, I just stayed quiet, and then when I was 12, I picked up a vacuum cleaner and I hit him. And that was the first time I stood up to him. And he never hit me, but after that, and then after being in this crash, I ran wild until I was 33. I'm 45. At 33 years old, from another story, my wife had a brain tumor, dealing with all this stuff. I gave my life to Christ, and it started healing and changing my mindset. Here's what I speak about now in rehab centers. No, it's not fair that some of us have messed up parents that have drug problems or whatever, but here's what I try to understand now. My dad's not a bad guy. He had problems. My dad's mom gave him away when he was 2 years old. He lived in Newark, New Jersey. Had 8 brothers and sisters, she gave him away. He ended up running the streets from 12 to 17 by himself, stealing cars, in jail, somehow ends up in the Army at 17, went to Vietnam, that's when he became a heroin addict. Ends up here in E-Town, finds my mom, 8th grade education. She's got like 6 brothers and sisters. These 2 jokers get married. What I know now, which of course we don't know when we're young, I couldn't expect them to raise us right because they had too many problems. My dad's got now 24 years of sobriety, so he's not drinking anymore. Even with that, my dad didn't stop drinking until I was 19. So after his son was in the worst bus crash in history, caused by a drunk driver, some joker like him, he keeps drinking. So I dealt with that. To answer your question about how I dealt with it, I'll be honest with you, I didn't until I was 33. Now how I deal with it, and I'll flip this back to your age. Not that it's fair. You about to make me emotional because I get passionate when I'm speaking about this stuff. Because me and my dad still don't have a great relationship, but it's there. My dad doesn't understand now why I go take care of their house, I cut their grass. He's looking at me like, why do you do that? Because he's regretful for how he raised us. But for me, number one, I'll be honest with you, not here to bring my faith up, but I am a Christian, and I tell my parents, you know, I got to honor y'all. I understand what you went through as an adult. It ain't fair. So now how I deal with it, especially having my own kids, I look at my family and I say, you know what? I'm going to change the way my past family was. This will pass. This is what's going on with a lot of young people. You get in these situations and you feel like, well, it's never going to end. Why do I have a messed up family? Why is this like this? I'm a living testimony. Yes, it's difficult. If you're living in that situation, you find someone to reach out to. You find help. I didn't have that when I was younger. One thing I have now, which everyone is in this community knows me for, is I battle. I'm not one person. You can't come up to Mr. Higgins and say, you know what? I can't do this. I don't want to hear that. I get it's hard. I'm here for you. There's plenty of adults around you that's here for you, but we don't want to reach out. So to answer your question, if this is a situation you or someone you know is living in, go find help. And at the same time, if you know the person that's in this struggle, try your best to understand why they're like that. You know, like I said, my mom and dad, they're good people. They were just messed up. So they couldn't raise us right. And as a 45-year-old now, I decided to get rid of all because I was bitter towards them. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of hated them growing up. I had to get rid of all that because that doesn't damage them, it damages me. If you met me growing up, around here everyone knew who the Carrollton bus crash kids were. Because I'll be honest, growing up here, we drove nice cars. Back in our day, we was in the 5.0s. All the Carrollton bus crash kids, I ain't gonna lie, we had money. And that doesn't take away from our crash because no amount of money is worth what we went through. But that's how we kind of escaped and forgot what we dealt with because all we did was hang out. A lot of us got into drugs and alcohol ourselves. I drank a lot. I did drugs myself. I was suicidal. But on the outside, we looked good. 17 years old, I had a BMW going to North Hardin. Back then, I was in the low ride. I had 2 low riding trucks with $6,000 stereo systems in it. But at the same time, I'm riding around jacked up because I didn't deal with it because most of us never dealt with our life. We grew up messed up. I am actually, out of 40 survivors, there's only 4 of us that talk as adults now about this because we never dealt with it. This May will be our 30th year anniversary. If you get a chance, look at I'm a social media fanatic, kind of, but only because I do a lot of this, and I blame it on my kids. But If you get a chance, follow Quentin Higgins on Facebook, and you'll see what I do, and you'll see what I speak about. Where's the young lady that asked that question? Thank you for asking that, because that is part of my passion, because I know there's what a lot of young people go through, and I don't want you to sit here and grow up to become my age, and because you had this past, because your family's got this past, to let it destroy you, because one day you're all going to have your own families. When I started having kids, I wasn't the best father until my oldest was 12 years old. Now my 24-year-old, she has graduated Georgetown College with a psychology degree. She went into campus ministry, ministering young girls about messed up relationships at NKU. Now she just got a job in Cincinnati as a case manager working in the foster care system. My 20-year-old lives in Louisville. She works at a psychiatrist's office too. I have determined to show my family that no, just because my dad, my mom, their grandma, their grandfather was messed up, daddy's not going to carry that legacy. So it stops with me. So if you're in these situations, decide right now it's going to stop with you. So thank you for asking that. You got me totally off track, but that was good. I know that's a whole nother story. I go to rehab centers and speak a lot, and I volunteer with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I speak a lot about those things. But when I come into schools, I don't have that much time. So it's her fault if y'all don't hear all my story. No, I'm joking. You got most of it. So I'm just going to kind of recap. Again, my heart's coming from what she asked me about. Why don't you put this in your head? 15 years old, you get asked to go to Kings Island. My first time going, because I was poor, because my dad was the way he was. My family never had money. My dad drank all our money to death. On top of that, my dad had a good job. My dad was one of the top tank mechanics inspectors on Fort Knox back in the 80s and 90s. Inspected all the tanks and stuff that came back from Desert Storm. But behind the scenes, he was drunk. Always in and out of trouble. DUIs was a thing for him. He had 3 crashes to where he should have killed himself, but he didn't. He always managed to get out of his mess. So, getting a chance to go to Kings Island was like going to Disney World for us. And I say it like this: the best day of my life turned into the worst day of my life. The church we went with, First Assembly of God there in Radcliffe, was actually right down the road from the trailer park I lived in. Me, Andy, and a couple other friends, we all lied to our parents and said, we're going to spend the night at so-and-so's house. Not that they cared. Most of our parents didn't care back then. And we ended up camping out in one of their yards, and we walked to the church. Didn't belong to the church. How we found out about the trip actually is pretty crazy. Andy took his mom to this church for Mother's Day and found out about the trip. He gave his life to Christ at 15 to surprise his mom. And then he found out all the kids were taking this trip, and he come back and invited us. So about 6 of us go with the church. We go to Kings Island. Man, had a blast. Like I said, my first time going. I'm acting like I'm in Disney World. Just what it was for a little poor, I'll say it like this, a little poor black kid from Radcliffe, never having a chance to do nothing, with a jacked up family. That was a chance for me to escape this world. So I had a blast. Stayed up there all day. 67 of us on an old school bus. And before you say, oh, that's a lot, back in them days, that's how we did it. Like I said, and buses are pretty safe. Like I said, I'm a bus driver, and the buses you have, and if y'all don't know it, every bus you have now was changed because of our crash. That's how huge this crash was. The bus you're going to see out here, it's only got 2 exits. Front door, back door. No emergency exits. Our school buses now, they have 9 exits because of the Carrollton bus crash. And I want you to think about that when you get on your buses today. That's another whole topic. I know some of you got mean bus drivers. Don't tell them I said that. But here's the thing. I don't care what your driver's like. Why in the world would you get on a bus and hinder them getting you home? We're human just like you. If your bus driver makes you mad, don't sit there and yell at him back. We might snap. That's what I tell my kids. And I'm joking, I ain't gonna snap. But every driver knows about this crash. No matter how they act, their goal is to get you home safe. And I want you to think about that when you get on your buses. You got a question, sir? No, it happened on Interstate 71. We were coming back home here, coming from Ohio. So, like I said, we went up there, had a ball. 9:50, we loaded our bus to come back to Radcliffe. 10:50 at night. And I want you to picture this in your head, because I want you to have this mental picture of when you step on this bus out here. We're tired. A lot of them had helium balloons, stuffed animals. 67 of us load this bus, come back home. We were supposed to get back here at 11:30 at night. Side topic, my best friend that invited me, he got back on that bus and he was mad at me because I stole his girl throughout the day, which was wrong, but messed me up because I thought Andy died mad at me. Andy rode up there with a girl named Pam Huey. She was sitting with him. Guess who was sitting with Pam on the way back? So yeah, he was a little upset with me. And then he died. So that was a whole nother thing I had to deal with at a young age. So we load that bus, 10:55 at night on Interstate 71. A guy named Larry Mahoney ended up driving drunk on the wrong side of the interstate. And here's the thing, especially in this generation now, some of you, like I said, I'm very direct, because I know. You ain't got to raise your hand or tell me, I'm like, dude, how's he know? Trust me, I know. Some of you are already drinking. Especially, I ain't gonna lie, especially you country kids. Like I said, I grew up here, went to plenty of field parties. Just because I'm a little black kid don't mean I didn't hang out with the country folk, because I did. Some of you are already drinking and driving, especially at these field parties in springtime, summertime, because you think nothing's gonna happen. We just had an old bonk having a fire, out hanging out. But once you have alcohol in your system, you never know. Why would you take that chance? And before you think, oh, not me, I want you to think about Larry Mahoney. This guy was 34 years old, not a bad guy. Same routine every day. Worked at an old factory, got off work, went to a bar, would drink, has probably done it 100 times and made it home. This one time he didn't. This one time he took a chance, he didn't get home. This joker decided to go drink most of the day, actually stopped at his friend's house. And this is another thing I'm passionate about. Some of you have friends that are drinking and doing drugs, and you're like, you know what, that's on them, I'm not gonna say a word. Stay out of it. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna use the word snitch. Wipe that mess out your head. There is nothing wrong with telling on somebody. I can't stand it. Somebody tell me, what do y'all say in school? Snitches get what? That's a lie. Stop saying that. Here's why I'm so passionate about that. Seriously, I want you to think about this. Not trying to dumb y'all down, but this generation doesn't think about these things. What is actually wrong? If you love your friends, because I love my friend, but dude, you don't care what they do. It's on them. What is wrong with telling on your friend? Who cares if they get mad? If they're doing something that could cause them harm. Seriously, think about that. The reason I'm so passionate about that is because, again, my crash, this crash. Larry Mahoney stopped at some friend's house. You're going to watch part of a documentary called Impact After the Crash here in about 5 minutes. If you get a chance, go on Amazon and buy it. If you got Amazon Prime, it's on there for free. It's only like $19 if you buy it. Another crash survivor helped make this film. When they did this film, they traced Larry Mahoney's steps. This joker stopped at his friend's house. His friends knew he was drunk. Somebody took his keys back, and then they was like, no, Larry, go home. You can make it home, dude. How you tell a drunk guy to go home? That's what we do. How stupid is that? This joker gets on the interstate. He lived like 5 miles from where he was at. He gets on the interstate. This dude passed 14 vehicles, 2 semis. Out of everything this dude could have hit, he hit us. A bus full of kids coming home from a day of fun, causing the world's worst drunk driving crash in U.S. history. Now, check this out. If you get your head around this, the word snitch, what is it? Seriously, what is it? It's telling on somebody. It's doing something they shouldn't be doing. If somebody would have snitched on Larry Mahoney simply by calling the cops, doesn't matter the scenario, it's the same thing. Snitched on him by calling the cops. Been a friend, no, dude, you're not driving. Who cares if you get mad? Kept his keys. And I'll say it like this because I'm trapped at 15 and I'm an adult and I see them as babies. By the simple word of snitching and being a friend, the 24 babies that died in that crash would have came home. I want you to think about that. Those 24 babies and the 3 adults that died would have came home and finished raising their families. But because nobody wanted to be a true friend, just like you guys are doing today in this world, they didn't come back. Because his friends were like, you know what? It's on him. What are you taking a chance with? What friend are you taking a chance? What are you doing yourself when you're intoxicated and you know what? I can make it home. What chance are you taking? If you met Larry Mahoney today, that man would tell you he didn't plan on doing that day. He didn't get up and say, you know what, I'm going to kill 27 people. He made a bad choice, just like we all do. It's unfortunate. His choice caused the world's worst drunk driving crash in history. This man he was 34, he's 67 now. He lives out in Norrington, right outside of I-71 where the crash happened at. Has never spoke. I've gone to his hometown twice to speak at a high school, and he lives like 10 miles from where I'm speaking at. My prayer is this, that I hope I meet this man one day, because I forgive him. He reminds me of my father because my dad was a drunk. But now, my dad's a good guy when he didn't have alcohol. So I want you to think about that. I don't want you to walk out of here today and be like, you know what, Mr. Higgins was wrong. That won't happen to me. Even if I'm drinking or doing drugs, that won't happen to me. It doesn't matter if this was 30 years ago. How are you any different? How are we any different from Larry Mahoney if we're having alcohol and drugs in our system and we're doing dumb stuff, especially getting behind the wheel? How are you any different from his friends if you don't stop your own friend from drinking and driving and doing drugs? You're taking a chance. Maybe they'll get home, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll get on the road and kill one of your friends. This young lady, how I actually got started out here, who remembers when Breonna Taylor got hit by a drunk driver here in our county? Her uncle, Dean Taylor, was a bus driver. I had just bought that bus I had. I ended up about to cry. Just thinking about this right here. This is what didn't plan on talking about this. How I ended up with this bus being in the public, they asked me to come to a memorial here when she died. I didn't want to because I was fearful. I'm still scared of that bus I got out there. It scares the mess out of me sometimes. But I brought it here and I walked away from it because I didn't want anybody to know who I was. Ended up going back outside and her family was on my bus, and then WDRB 41 was here doing a story. And her family comes up consoling me, crying and thanking me for what I do, and I'm crying because I'm like, y'all just lost your daughter and your son. And they thank me for getting out here starting to spread awareness. When I'm thinking in my head, you don't know, I don't want to do this. That bus got on the news 3 years ago, and I've been speaking all over the place since. I'll be truthful. A lot of times I don't want to do this. I don't get paid to do this a lot of times. I do this because I don't know you, but I care. It became a passion of mine when people started hearing my story. When I see your young faces, I don't want to look in a newspaper and see that one of you done been hit by a drunk driver, one of your friends has been killed, or you got a DUI or killed yourself in a car. That's why I do this. And let's talk about this real quick, and then we're going to watch this. Because this is another thing close to my heart. Talk about a little weed. What are you looking like? He was like, I ain't gonna lie, I know some of y'all smoke weed too. Stop. Let me tell you a funny story about marijuana. My mom is 67 and she's a pothead. Good woman, but because of the way she grew up, see, y'all think that stuff's not addictive. It is. See, I grew up lifelong with this stuff. You don't know who I really am. I'm not just your average adult. I have these conversations all the time. I also speak to soldiers on Fort Knox about this stuff. Marijuana is a lie. My mom called me about 4 months ago. And we joke with my mom because we'll go to my mom's house and she's spraying stuff. I'm like, Mama, we know you smoke. Stop spraying stuff. Been smoking since I was 2. So it's becoming like a joke. Because my mom is 67. And I ain't gonna lie, we joke and say she's preserved because she looks like she's about 30. We say it's from the weed, but it's not. But here's the sad part of that. You smoke it long enough, you do get addicted. You get out here in the world, They're not going to tolerate that stuff. My mom, when she's not smoking, you can tell it because her nerves is on high. Because she's always been smoking all her life. That dumb excuse, well, marijuana calms me down. It might, but you know what? Learn to live life out here without anything in your doggone head. That's what a life is about, period. You don't need marijuana in your system. If you can't handle life, then something's wrong. Like I said, I'm known, like I said, you're talking to the wrong person. I come from the home I did. I was in this bus crash. I'm staying here now. I don't need marijuana in my system. I'll joke with a lot of survivors. If anybody needs to smoke, it's us. But we don't. My mom called me 4 months ago, and she calls me Junior. Don't y'all call me Junior if you see me in public. But she goes, I need you to pray for me. And I laugh because my parents know how I live. I'm not your typical Christian. I joke, I play, but they know I live different. So they don't like to come around when there's stuff. But they call me when there's serious stuff in our family. So I'm kind of laughing because I'm on my phone in my car. And I said, Mom, what are you talking about? She goes, I went to the doctor, and they won't give me my medication. Here's the real sad part. My mom has a heart problem, high blood pressure, and COPD or something. Stuff that could kill her if she does not take her medication. I said, Mom, why won't they give you your medication? She goes, because they found marijuana in my system. My thought was, Mom, stop smoking. She paused. And she goes, I want you to pray. And I heard the seriousness in her voice. And so I got serious. I said, let me stop, because I'll joke in a minute on my family. And she goes, no, would you pray for me? I said, Mom, for what? She goes, because I can't stop smoking. That's been 4 months ago, and to this day, my mom has not stopped smoking. Here's what I do know. My mom's addicted to marijuana because she has smoked all her life. Here's the sad fact, because she does not take her blood pressure medicine regularly. My mom could die because she's addicted to marijuana, because she's not taking the rest of her medications. She'd rather go spend her little $25 on her little bag of weed every other week because she's addicted. So when you step to me and you want to have this conversation about weed's okay, I'll be very honest. Yeah, a lot of y'all smoke and it's okay for several months, a couple years, but watch out because you'll get addicted. And the way our world's going today, they're not going to play with y'all out here. All this wanting to legalize this stuff, you keep smoking and you see how you end up. I grew up like this. So the ones that are smoking, because I know some of you are smoking, you can smile, laugh, do what you want. I'm trying to help you and be serious, because this is my life. I encourage you. Man up, woman up, go out in the world sober-minded. That guy that was speaking to y'all before I came in here, he's had some good information. It saddened me because I think only one young lady asked that man a question. You guys have no idea what you're getting ready to step out into. You're going to have fun for the first year after you graduate high school, maybe 2. After that, then life hits you. Then you look up and like, man, what do I do? Then you run, some of y'all run back home, Mom, Dad, help me because I can't make it in the world yet. Being for real. Because of my circumstances, I didn't know how to handle life forever until I was 33 years old. Still struggling today with a lot of stuff. But I got a lot of good people around me that say what I'm saying to you. So I hope you understood that, and we're going to watch this.
Through our church, one of the ladies asked me, she said, you ever thought about driving a bus? I'm like, no, no way. Finally, one day I was like, you know what? I got a daughter going to go to college. I need to make a little more money. And I tell people that if you told me I was going to drive a bus 2 years ago, man, I'd say you was crazy. And now driving a school bus is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
I titled this A Glimpse of My Life because, honestly, you heard how I grew up. The bus crash is just a part of it. That is Larry Mahoney's truck. He didn't get a scratch on him. Joker spent 9 years in prison. Got out, and no one's ever heard from him. We know where he's at, but he just does not talk about this. That's a picture of our actual bus. Now, I want you to look at that bus before you go on out here. Because even though you heard me speak, you don't get it in your head until you see something like that. I want you to get in your head that 24 kids, most of them your age, There was one story, a guy, Rick, I can't say his name, Rick Going. He was 19, set to graduate North Hardin High School. His parents bought him a brand new car. He hadn't even seen it yet. They were hoping to give it to him when he came back from the trip. He died. He died. Didn't know he was going to die. They kept our bus around for a year so families could look at it, but only 12 families went, and then they buried that bus in a location that we don't even know where it's at. These are my hands. Second, third degree burns on both my hands and arms. They are doing something there called debriding. Anybody ever been burned in here real bad? Have you ever been burned like I was? Most of us, I'm fortunate, my burns are not even like most of the survivors. But they come in and they scrub your skin raw over your injuries. That is the worst pain you could have in the world. I mean, 15 years old, you're crying like a baby, on top of the pain you already got because of these burns. Squirreling to the point you're falling out the bed. That's how bad it was. I stayed in the hospital 6 weeks. For 2 weeks, and the scar across my neck is from a chain that melted into my neck. That's how hot it got inside the bus. The fire is not what killed everybody first, it was the heat. I cough like that because my lungs are still messed up today. That's my worst hand. Still got like a nerve damage in the hand. There were some survivors 6 months to a year in the hospital. I titled that A Mother's Grief because for 2 weeks, my mom stayed like that because they told her I was going to die. My lungs were so messed up. I couldn't breathe on my own. I had a tube in my throat, my mouth, and every time they took it out, I would choke. And it took 2 weeks. And this here is kind of funny. Actually, you can see I got better. That's a fillet of fish on my plate. When you get burned, they put protein in your food, and your food might look good, but it's nasty. There's a McDonald's, there used to be a McDonald's downstairs in Coceres. Some of the girls were coming up visiting some of us kids, and they seen I didn't want to eat. So they snuck me a fillet of fish. First time having one, and I love them. That's my girls at McDonald's. That is my nurse, and as you said, I asked that woman to marry me only because I was on morphine. That's the only time you get drugs is when you're in hospital. Awesome story is, I put this picture on Facebook when we made the documentary. 2 weeks later, someone tagged her and said, that's Judy. A week after that, she said, that's us. We talked on Facebook, face-to-face, or Facebook for about 2 years. 4 months ago, I met her for the first time after 30 years. And kind of crazy, because she told me things. She was my primary nurse. 26 years old, that was her first mass casualty. When we first came in, she told me something I never heard of, why my lungs were so messed up. The seats had melted so much to where the plastic melted and went up in there and stuck to the roof of our mouth. And she had to pull this stuff off of my top of our roof of our mouths. That's a seating chart where we were sitting. The ones in black are the ones that did not make it. That is a picture out of our local middle school here, which is Radcliffe Elementary now. It used to be Radcliffe Middle. 13 kids missing out of one class the following Monday because someone made a bad choice. It's Larry Mahoney, does not remember. My best friend's funeral. For some reason, my dad decided to take pictures. We called him Baby C because Andy always wore his hat, said Baby C stood for Baby Claybrook, because he wanted to be like his older brother, Mark Claybrook. His brother was a local rapper back in our days, and we hung out at the skating rink that's still standing, and breakdance, rap battles, we did all that stuff. And Andy died. He went to JTA, played basketball, never got the chance to recognize his dreams. I tell you how grief destroys your family. His sister, one of his sisters died in a drive-by drug thing in Indianapolis about 10 years after this. She couldn't cope with life. His mom ended up with cancer like 10 years after this, and she died. He's got a brother actually that lives out here in E-Town somewhere. He shot his brother he idolized, shot himself. He's out here in E-Town now walking around blind and crippled. This destroyed their family. That's the memorial up by North Hardin. If you're out, go sit and read that. Been up since '89, and I doubt anybody ever goes and sits and reads that. These are 27 faces. To tell you how powerful and sad this story is, Joy Williams, Christian, or can't think of what daughter. These are her two daughters. They all died that night. There was one man that lost his entire family. Now keep in mind, this is why I always have my cell phone, because it's crazy the things that attach to us at our age. We didn't have cell phones back then. And for some reason when I speak, I hold my cell phone a lot. And the reason why is, can you imagine this? We were supposed to get back at 11:30. 11:45, they just think we're late. 11:50, 12 o'clock, they get concerned. 12:10, state troopers have to pull up here in Radcliffe. Flowing the church parking lot, telling these parents their kids are on Interstate 71 burning up on a bus. Mr. Williams had to make a decision because we didn't have cell phones. So had to wait at the house for a phone call. He said, I had to make a choice, and he talked about this in part of the documentary. I had to either stay home or go to church. He made a choice to stay home because he knew somebody would call. 3 people, somebody's got to still be alive. So he stayed home, waited for a phone call. He said at 2 in the morning, I want you to picture this. No call. He started begging God, would you please leave me somebody? I don't care which one, just one of them. Because it set in that he had no word. 4 in the morning, this man realized his family was gone. His entire family. Because someone made a bad choice. Because someone didn't want to be a friend and snitch. This man lost his entire family. And I want you to think about stuff like that. See, you'll leave here today, it's just a story. You will, see, it's not a matter of, I'm not going to do it. You're going to be faced with the drugs. You're going to be faced with alcohol. What are you going to do when it faces you? You're going to say, you know what, dude, I'm good. I'm driving tonight. I'm not one to say not drink. I wish you wouldn't drink. But if you are, you're going to have the courage and the decency to be like, you know what, I'm driving, so I'm not going to touch it. You're going to have the decency to look at your friend in the face and say, you know what, dude, you're drunk, you're high, you're not driving. I don't care if you're mad at me or not. Maybe I'm going to save your life. Those faces. People were faced with the same decision I'm putting in front of you. They didn't make that right decision. Look what happened to us.
It was a peaceful ride home from Kings Island Amusement Park. The kids and their chaperones had just had a terrific day. Now on the way home, some were already reminiscing, others were sleeping, but no one dreamed that they'd cross paths with a truck going the wrong way.
Instantly, there's a loud crash or a boom. I hit the seat in front of me, and I remember thinking, what in the world just happened? It all happened very, very, very fast, very quickly, very chaotic. If you didn't react instantly, you weren't gonna make it.
I started screaming for my mom. You know, I mean, screaming well, and then you couldn't see in front of you. So I'm pushing everybody, trying to get out. And I just constantly screaming, and then for some reason, in my mind, I thought I was gonna die. You know, I just knew this was it.
Not really knowing what I was doing, I went toward the front, and that's right where the fire was. The gas tank was a few rows in front of me on the opposite side of the bus. So I turned around and I tried to get out of a window. And if you remember the old style buses where you had to pull these 2 clasps together simultaneously to get these windows down. It was a death trap. So if you could imagine, the only lights you had are flames.
And I remember feeling the heat and the glow of the fire and just hearing a bunch of people yell, get out, get out.
It was just this huge whoosh, and I knew the bus was on fire. I could feel the heat behind me. I could see sort of an orange glow, and the only thing that kept running in my head was alternating, I can't believe this is happening to me, and don't turn around.
All going to the same road. I climbed seat after seat after seat. I fought people, I fought bodies, I fought everything I could to get to the back.
And the seat was literally so hot to the touch that it had literally melted the skin right front to just yell for my dad. Dad, 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 Dad.
I feel this pull. The next thing I know, I'm hitting the ground.
Before I knew it, I was out on the pavement and making my way over to the grassy median, and then looking back at the bus and just trying to figure out where everybody was.
And I'll never forget it the rest of my life, because I turned back around after everybody had gotten out. It seemed like everybody was over attending to all the burn victims. And I turned around and I saw the back of the bus. I looked over my shoulder and I said, Cheryl, somebody's just dropped out of the back of the bus on the asphalt. So me and her ran over there and I said, now, Cheryl, you grab this person's legs, I'll grab her hands, and we'll carry her over to the grass median with the rest of the burn victims. At the time, I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl.
I see my friend David. He was crying and telling me, he was falling to pieces. And I looked at him, he was holding his arms out and his skin was coming off his arms.
I don't remember any of my friends or Christy being anywhere even within sight. I just remember seeing bodies toward the back of the bus and kind of that mass of people getting off and trying to help others off.
Somebody grabs a hold of me, catches up with me, and they lay me down in the median. The blades of grass in the median, feeling like knives sticking me in the back of my arm. But I do remember somebody coming over to me and saying, your sister's okay. Kim is okay. Kim got out. It ended up being Carrie Arnott's, but her hair was gone. The cartilage was, she was severely burned. Of course, she had black soot all over, so I couldn't tell who it was. So I said, let's carry him over there. You grab her legs, I'll grab her hands, we'll carry her over.
The paramedics came over and was talking to me and told me exactly what was going to happen, that they were going to pick me up on 3 and they were going to put me on the stretcher. And when they slid me into the ambulance, they put me beside a medicine cabinet type thing that had reflection. And I remember looking to the side and all I could see was this big black circle. But I couldn't see anything else. It just looked like this big black thing of trash. And it was my face.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Bergen.
And I'm Vicki George. It's the worst bus accident in Kentucky history. At first, there were reports that 18 were dead, but after authorities began removing bodies from the bus, that figure was changed. It now stands at 27.
Well, it was so unreal, so surreal that I really didn't know what I was looking at. When I arrived, I parked about 1,500 feet away from the crash scene. There was emergency medical helicopters still lifting off the ground. There was news helicopters overhead. Traffic was stopped. There were many victims laying in the medians. People were getting ice from coolers in nearby cars and buses, tending to the victims, laying them out before emergency responders could arrive. 11 ambulances were used, 2 emergency medical helicopters were utilized, 4 hospitals were utilized.
So I arrived at Carrollton after midnight. Sought out the state police to show me to Corner Dunn. Met Jen at the back of the bus. The back door was open. There were no living victims at that point in the scene. I had a Kel light with both hands. Used that to illuminate as much as I could. I saw a scene of absolute horror. Dead kids draped over the backs of seats. Their bodies either completely or partially incinerated.
We started having parents coming to the scene of the crash. I remember looking at this gentleman and he says, I said, you're going to have to get back. He said, can you tell me where that guy is that's driving that black pickup truck? I said, I don't know. I think he's gone to the hospital. And then I remember the gentleman saying, my son was on that bus and I'm going to go kill that son.
I've thought about my own father. I've seen my dad drink and drive. He's had a couple of accidents himself. And the first thing I thought, that could have been my dad. He didn't get up that day and say, I'm gonna go do this. And that's what stuck out with me with Larry Mahoney.
I remember remember going to sit on the guardrail and try to collect my thoughts and look at my notes. And at that particular time, it appeared to be that it was eerily quiet out there on the interstate. The decision was made to not remove any bodies on the interstate because we had so many bystanders, we had so many news media around, that we simply didn't want a constant parade of victims. The bus, victims still inside, was placed on the local trail. It was trucked inside the National Guard Armory where we could work in private, conduct an independent, a secure investigation. At that particular time, the families that were involved were vanned to the Holiday Inn in Carrollton, which was just slightly down the road and across the street from there. And we started getting as much information as you could. Red Cross was called in to assist. The families were interviewed in terms of victim data, color hair, what kind of clothing they had on, how old.
I knew that standing in the middle of the temporary morgue, that I probably couldn't do this job for the rest of my life.
Even seasoned police officers were shaken by what they witnessed inside the morgue as the death toll continued to mount during the afternoon.
Well, it's a horrible task for anyone who cares anything about human life, especially in cases like this when so many lives are snuffed out.
The picture that they want to keep of their children is not what is in that room, but what is in their wallet and in their minds.
We know that from the time they hit till the time that the bus comes to final rest, it took 1.94 seconds. That church bus is already on fire. Mahoney hits the right front of the bus, spins out about 80 feet to the left. He survives the crash with moderate injuries. The children, the passengers on the bus, begin to start unloading out the back door of the bus as quickly as they can. The matter of time for the occupants to get out within seconds. They had burns on the palms of their hands from the polyvinyl covering on the seats melting in their hands. They had burns on the tops of their ears, backs of their ears, the top of their head from the paint dripping off the ceiling. So it became very hot very quickly inside that bus. The ones that survived were the fortunate ones to be in the rear, or the bigger, stronger males that were inside the bus.
My daughter Patty wrote a speech, Destiny, Choice, Not Chance, and she wrote it for a contest that she was going to be competing with seniors in high school, and she was only in the 4th grade. And on Tuesday night, May the 10th, she gave this speech, and she said, I feel that destiny is a choice made by you. Destiny should not come by chance. If destiny comes by chance, you may not have a good life. You may not live the way that you want to. Your future should not be left to chance. You have the choice to improve your destiny. To meet your destiny, you must be careful to make the right choices because you may only have one chance. She delivered this 3-minute speech on Tuesday night. And on Saturday night, her destiny was met by one man who made the wrong choice to drink and drive. When she said, to meet your destiny, you must be careful to make the right choices because you may only have one chance. That's a phrase I live by. Make the right choices because you may only have one chance. Little did she know.
as you can see, I wasn't just here speaking today. I only watch that full documentary about twice a year. I can't. I was with them kids. I was sitting 6 seats behind the driver. We got hit, I stood up and I passed out, laid on the floor. That's why the doctor said my face didn't get burned, my hands did because it was on the floor. I should have died. I don't remember how long I was out. I remember something told me to get up. I don't remember hearing the kids. If you heard some of the memories some of the survivors have, it would drop you to your knees because they remember the fighting, the kicking, the screaming, and everything else. The climbing over seats frantically to get off that bus. Next thing I knew, I found myself at the back, and I have a memory of, I remember seeing the dead kids stacked to the roof. I remember sticking my hand through them, and a truck driver pulled me off that bus. I'm one of the last ones to get off that bus, and now this is what I do today. So if you got anything out of this, I hope you got at least two things. Especially because that young lady asked me a question. Some of you are going through some stuff in your life that you think you can't conquer and you can't overcome. I'm here to tell you that's a lie. It's going to be difficult. Get some help. Find people that can really help you. 2, as that woman read that poem from her 10-year-old daughter that she didn't think that it was going to die that night because someone simply made a wrong choice. You young people, I hope you leave here today and understand that you got to speak up and do the right thing. It's not funny. This last school shooting that happened rocked me to my core. 17 kids died because I get it, the young man was messed up, but here's the problem. Someone always knows something's going to happen, and they could prevent it, but no one speaks up. No one does whatever it takes to stop it. And that breaks my heart. And then we get all this chaos in the world. Our crash is no different. I deal with this every day. This May is going to be the most difficult time of our lives because it's 30th year anniversary. For the first time, most of the survivors, we have decided to get together at my house. We have a private Facebook page that only we see. The stuff that some of them are starting to talk about 30 years later at my age is horrifying of what they keep in. The one thing that we all have in common that hurts us to the core is no one spoke up and stopped Larry Mahoney. And you gotta ask yourself, why not? I'll say this, then y'all can go out and look at the bus. This is what I say to everyone I speak to. Doesn't matter your age or whatever. If you don't start making right choices about stuff like this, people in your school, the bullying, everything. You got kids, you've seen Harold Dennis, he's a black guy, his face is totally scarred up. He left here because people had the audacity. He was bullied in high school at North Hardin. He lives in Lexington. That joker played football at UK. Now he's a physician assistant. You don't have a heart. It's not fun and games. Just because you're 17, 18, and I'm 45, we're no different. You got a heart and you got a mindset. You can change. Don't go with the flow if you see someone making fun of people or messing up. You do not have a heart if you can't come away from this and make a change. As difficult as this is for me, someone said the most profound thing to me several years ago, and I got mad at them. Because I'm like, dude, you don't know my shoes. Someone said, Quentin, because I didn't want to do this stuff. People don't see me at 6:30 in the morning when I'm putting gas in my regular school bus, and I done had a memory, and I'm up there crying like a baby. You don't see me when that bus stays parked at Colton's restaurant in Radcliffe, and I got to go speak, and I'm taking a doggone hour to just pray over it. And like, I'm not getting on this dude today. I got my phone out, and I'm not coming to speak. But I always make the choice that I go. People don't see the pain I still deal with, but I go because of this. When I'm out in public somewhere and some 6th or 7th grader comes up and says, Mr. Higgins, I heard what you said. So hopefully you young people, 17, 18, however old you are, if you don't leave here and make a change, your heart's in the wrong spot. And I'll say it that simple. So when you go out and look at this bus, you're going to see the pictures of these kids. This bus is identical to what we were on. I want you to get in your head that what we went through that night. I want you to get in your head that when you see your friends, you're going to make a change. 10 years from now, you're not even going to know the same people. So why in the world would you worry about somebody getting mad at you now when you could save their life? So y'all can look at it and go on and get on it.
Is it still hard to talk about? Like after like 30 years, like do you?
Sometimes, yeah. But like I said, out of 40 survivors, there's only 4 of us that do public speaking. And most of them don't even talk about it. Yeah, it's very difficult. Because there's days that, even though it's 30 years, that's what I posted on Facebook this morning. Even though it's 30 years, it feels like yesterday. Like so sometimes I go back in my head like I'm 15. I remember it like that. So yeah, man, it's crazy.
Yeah. I just couldn't see myself, you know, forgiving him.
I get it. I mean, and you won't see it
But
now.
then again, there's time to it, so.
Yeah.
It would take me a couple years probably.
Dude, longer than that.
Yeah.
No,
That's what I mean, a couple.
Now you tell me what happened. By the way, I got a question.
Yes.
There was a newspaper on the seat, on the seat there. When did this happen?
May 14th, 1988.
So did you get out of there alive?
Yes.
Where did you guys go out?
The back door.
Back door? Oh God.
No, these old buses, you have to pull the clamps. And here's the thing I didn't talk about in there. The simplest thing becomes the hardest thing to do when you're in a panic. One of them did, but all the people just couldn't get out. There was one lady that got out the window. She was very tiny.
Did you see the truck?
No.
That hit you?
Very young they was.
Yep, we were babies. Actually, 2 youngest were 10 years old. Again, you see why I do this. You guys are living in a community to where, like I said, this happened to this community. Okay? So go away from here, change today. Thank you.